Hello and welcome back. Today's video, I will be creating my own version of the new NATASHA DENONA GLAM palette. I've done videos like this in the past where I try to shop my stash and look for similar colors, basically trying to talk myself out of buying an eyeshadow palette. Now, this palette looks beautiful and I know I love the NATASHA DENONA formula. I have several palettes by her and I absolutely love them. I am not trying to talk anyone else out of buying this palette. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy this palette. I'm sure it is amazing. Like I said, I am a NATASHA DENONA lover. However, after looking through my collection, I actually don't think I need this palette, at least for now. When I first saw it, I was 100% convinced I wanted to purchase this right away because it is a cooler tone palette. And if you've seen my collection, you would know I have a lot of colorful eyeshadows and a lot of warm tones. I don't have a lot of cool tones, or at least that's what I thought, until I looked through my collection, and honestly, I think I have some similar shades. So again, I'm not saying anyone else shouldn't get this palette. I'm just not going to get it, at least for now. Maybe later on sale I would get it. But yeah, I have decided against it, which is good news for my wallet. And at the end of this video, I did film this makeup tutorial, so I will show you that. Yeah, I'm just gonna go through some of my palettes, show you some similar shades, and at the end of the video, we'll do the tutorial. Let us know if you're gonna buy this palette, and let's get started. This is a beautiful cool tone palette, and I will say the only con really is after looking at the swatches on the Trend Mood 1 Instagram, some of the shades actually appear to be similar to each other. Now again, it's hard to know that for certain when you're not seeing the palette in person, but it did seem to have some similar shades within the palette, and personally I probably would have preferred a few more matte shades. However, again, it is beautiful. Now, everybody was comparing it to the Sultry palette. A lot of comments on the Trend Mood 1 Instagram, people were saying, wow, that looks like the Anastasia Sultry palette. And this palette is really hard to find nowadays. So I think for a lot of people who don't have this palette, the NATASHA DENONA one would be a good purchase if you like cooler tones. So this palette definitely has a matte gray. It definitely has a dark, cool toned brown, and then a lot of these, the silver. Some of these other more cooler bronzy shades are very similar to the NATASHA palette. So actually, I think you could do a lot of similar looks if you already have the Sultry palette. Here's some swatches of Sultry. You know, definitely you got the silver, the cooler to neutral bronzes, the matte grays. You know, I definitely think if you already own this palette, I'm sure you could do similar looks. Now, personally, I actually do prefer the NATASHA DENONA formula over Anastasia. So formula-wise, I mean, I still love this. This is one of my favorite palettes, but I would say I do prefer the NATASHA formula over this. But if you have this, you know, there's also a pink shade in the NATASHA palette that actually I think looks similar to Rose Quartz. I mean, hard to say again, haven't seen it in person. But based on the swatches from Trend Mood, actually, I think, you know, there could be some similarities. So overall, I do see a lot of similarities. A lot of people were commenting that, and I do have to agree. I'm sure they're not identical, but definitely similar. Something I know I've mentioned in a lot of other videos is that an eyeshadow may look slightly different swatched, but on the eye, sometimes they really don't look that different. So again, that is something to keep in mind. The next palette I want to talk about is the Royal Affair palette by BH Cosmetics. I recently did a video talking about my favorite limited edition and discontinued palettes. This was on the list. I bought this at Marshall's or TJ Maxx last year, and I really love it. And this is the palette I did for the tutorial. Honestly though, this look, I could have probably done with quite a few of these palettes that I'm mentioning. So, you know, keep that in mind. But this is the one I used for the look. And this, when you first look at it, it looks nothing like the NATASHA palette because you do have the pop of green, the pop of blue, the pink, and the burgundy. However, a lot of these other shades I think are definitely in the same color family. You have a matte gray, a more neutral brown, a very dark cool tone brown, a silver, this kind of taupey shade. Actually, I think this has some similarities, even though at first glance it looks very different. Let me show you some swatches of these. A couple of the shades from this palette. So yeah, this taupe shade, I use this as a lid shade in combination with this one today, and the matte gray. So really, if you have this palette and you want to do some cool tone looks, I would recommend pulling this out because it can be distracting by some of the other shades. And also the Natasha palette does have a more warm brown, which you do have a few of these in this palette as well. And I do like that. So personally, I have warm undertones, so sometimes wearing too many cool tones can look too like gray on me. And so sometimes I will mix in a warm brown in the crease. And I do think that that sometimes is more flattering on my skin tone. So that is something to try if you are intimidated by cool tones. Mix it in with a little bit of a warm tone brown, and that can really help kind of neutralize the look a little bit. All right, this next one definitely again has some similarities. The Milani Soft and Sultry palette. This one is great, and the quality on this is amazing. I mean, I consider this a formula that is as good as high-end formulas, and this, you definitely have some of these cool tone taupey shades. You definitely have a lot of dark cool tones here, and a black, and also a matte gray. Again, this formula is so high quality. I use this palette a ton, and I think it is really good. So again, if you have this one, try it out. I'm sure you could do some similar looks. Let me show you some swatches. So again, matte gray, and some of these taupey colors, these kind of look similar to some of the ones in the Natasha palette. This one looks like it has almost a bit of purple in it, and there are a couple shades in the Natasha palette that seem to pull a bit of pink and a bit of purple in with the taupe, which I think is really, really beautiful. And this one's actually pretty similar to the lid shade that I used today from the BH Royal Affair palette also. This next palette is also very good if you want some matte cool tones. This is the Warrior 2 by Juvia's Place. Now this top part is very warm tone here, but you do have a black, a gray, and this cream shade. So I sometimes forget that these are in this palette because the rest of it is so warm toned, but this is a really good gray right here. I really like that. And again, I love the Juvia's formula. It's one of my favorites. Okay, that is not showing up very well. There it is. It's a really, really good high quality eyeshadow. So yeah, if you do have this one, you know, check it out if you're interested in a matte gray and maybe you didn't realize that you had one. Now the last palette I'm mentioning on first glance looks like the opposite to this palette. And actually I did talk about this when I did a creating my own version of the Natasha Denona bronze palette, because there are a lot of bronzes in here. But at least based on the swatches on the Trend Mood on Instagram, it did seem that there were some more neutral bronzes in this glam palette. And actually this palette has these three here that are more neutral, actually leaning a bit cool, whereas the rest of the palette is obviously very, very gold. Whoops, I swatched the wrong one. So yeah, these are definitely a lot warmer than other colors I've shown, but there are a few of the bronzy shades in this new palette that do appear to be pulling a bit more warm. And I gotta say, that's one really nice thing about the new Natasha palette, is that she kind of combined some more warmer neutral shades along with the more cool tones, which again, I do think that can make them more flattering, because I know a lot of people get worried about cool tones, that they'll kind of make them look kind of sickly. And it can, you know, definitely just depends on what you're pairing it with. So I think mixing in a shade that is a bit on the warmer side can kind of ground the look a little bit, make it more neutral. But yeah, this palette, I think in combination with some cool tone mattes would actually be really pretty. I need to try that out actually. Alrighty, so that is it for the Shop My Stash portion. I really think going through these palettes, I personally do have similar shades. Again, I love the Natasha formula. Maybe this is a palette I will buy later on, but I just don't think I need it right now. And purely just based on the swatches on Trend Mood 1, I'm not sure. There are a few shades that seem a little too similar, and I do own several Natasha palettes, and she does tend to sometimes dupe herself within the same palette. I know I have several other palettes of hers where there will be several shades that look pretty similar when you put them on the eyes, but this is a beautiful palette, and I love that people are releasing more cool tones. Honestly, I think we have been oversaturated with warm tones for a very long time, so I'm actually really happy to see a more cool tone palette. Please let us know if you are getting this palette. Again, It's beautiful and I'm tempted to get it myself, but I really think for now, seeing what I have here, I don't really need it. So let us know what you think and let's roll into the tutorial part of this video. Alrighty, I had my makeup done and I removed the eye makeup that I had. So we're kind of just working with what's happening here. And I'm gonna go with the Royal Affair palette. And I wanna go ahead and just start with this matte gray shade right here. That's gonna be going in the crease. And the quality on this palette is so nice. Honestly, I need to use this palette more. I'm gonna go with this matte dark cool tone brown right there. That's gonna go in the outer corner. If cool tone looks like this, I do like to add a little bit of black eyeshadow. So I'm gonna go with this one here from the Soft and Sultry, but I mean, so many palettes have black eyeshadows. That is not anything I would say is unique. I want to layer a couple of shimmers together because I do think that the Natasha palette really has some nice shimmers, and I think that obviously is what most of the palette is. So I'm going to go with this one here. This is like a cool tone taupe. It has a bit of green in it actually. So I'm just going to put this right here. Little bit of setting spray to that. All right, and then onto this taupey shade, which I've noticed I have a lot of colors like this in a lot of my palettes. Very pretty type color though. I decided to just use my finger. I don't know, I think it's because I had makeup on earlier and I removed it. I don't know, my eyelids are kind of dry right now. All right, just a little more blending here. All right, I'm gonna clean up this fallout and finish the rest of the makeup and I'll be back. Alrighty, here's the final look, and I did add a silver on the inner corner and then I put some of the dark brown and the black on the lower lash line. I really do like the smoky effect, and I really do like to mix in black when I'm doing such a cool tone smoky look. I love how it turned out. I'll list the other products that I used, like the lipstick and all of that. So yeah, please let us know if you're getting this palette. It is quite beautiful, and I'm happy to see more cool tones out there. That is it. Thank you so much for watching.